It's 3 a.m. You're staring at the ceiling. Your phone is face down beside you because you promised yourself you wouldn't check it. Your brain feels wide awake, and somewhere in the back of your mind, a small familiar panic starts to build. Something is wrong with you, but it isn't. For most of human history, waking up in the middle of the night wasn't a malfunction. It was Tuesday. You've been taught that sleep is supposed to be one long, unbroken block. 8 hours, lights out, lights on. If you wake up in the middle of it, something has failed. But your ancestors didn't sleep that way. And the way they slept might explain why your 3 a.m. brain feels so strangely, uncomfortably alert. Let's go back. Not centuries, not decades, just a few hundred years before electric light rewired the night. Historian A. Roger E. Kirch spent over a decade combing through diaries, court records, and medical texts from pre-industrial Europe. What he found surprised almost everyone who read it. People didn't sleep in one block. They slept in two. The first sleep began shortly after dusk. A few hours in, people would wake. Not from insomnia, not from stress. It was simply how the night was built. This waking period had a name. People called it the watch. It could last 1 hour, sometimes 2. During the watch, people didn't panic about being awake. They didn't reach for anything to make themselves sleep again. They got up, they tended the fire, they talked quietly with a spouse, they prayed. Some visited neighbors, some had sex. Physicians of the time even believed this middle-of-the-night window was an especially good time for conception, since the body was rested but calm. Then, eventually, a second sleep would follow. Deeper and carrying them through until morning. 2 sleeps, 1 watch in between. For thousands of years, this was simply what a night looked like. So what happened to it? Light happened. As gas lighting and later electric light spread through cities in the 1800s and 1900s, nights stopped being dark. People stayed up later. Factory schedules demanded a single efficient block of rest instead of 2. Slowly, the watch disappeared from cultural memory. Within a few generations, almost no one remembered that segmented sleep had ever been the norm at all. But here's the strange part. Your body might still remember. In the early 1990s, psychiatrist Thomas Ware ran an experiment that reads almost like a time machine. He took a group of volunteers and placed them in an environment with 14 hours of darkness each night, no artificial light allowed, for weeks at a time. This mimicked the length of a winter night before electricity existed. What happened next was almost eerie. Within about a month, the volunteers' sleep split in 2. On its own, without instruction, they would sleep for a few hours, wake for 1 or 2 hours in a calm, meditative state, and then fall into a second sleep until morning. Ware's subjects had rediscovered the watch simply by removing modern light from the equation. Your body didn't forget how to do this. It just hasn't had the darkness to do it in. Now here's where it gets stranger. Why would sleeping in 2 blocks with a waking gap in the middle ever have been useful in the first place? Wouldn't evolution favor one long, efficient, undisturbed sleep? Not necessarily. Not if you were vulnerable. Anthropologist Carol Worthman has studied sleep patterns in small-scale societies still living without electric light today, from foraging communities to rural villages. Across many of these groups, sleep tends to be lighter, more fragmented and more socially embedded than the isolated, blacked-out bedroom sleep of the modern world. People often sleep near others, near a fire, with awareness of their surroundings built into the rhythm of the night itself. That makes a certain kind of sense. A completely unconscious human, alone, in total darkness, for 8 straight hours, is an easy target. A predator doesn't care about your sleep schedule. Neither does a rival group, a wildfire, or a sudden drop in temperature. A body that partially surfaces in the middle of the night, checks its surroundings, tends the fire, and settles back down is a body that's harder to catch off guard. The watch wasn't a glitch. It may have been a form of vigilance built directly into the architecture of rest, which brings us back to you at 3 a.m. staring at your ceiling. Sleep researcher Matthew Walker has pointed out that a huge number of people who wake in the night and label it insomnia are actually experiencing something closer to a normal biological rhythm colliding with modern expectations. The problem often isn't the waking itself, it's the meaning we've attached to it. We wake up, glance at a clock, calculate how many hours of sleep we have left, and flood our own body with stress. The watch becomes a crisis instead of a pause. Your ancestors didn't have a clock glowing red in the dark, reminding them exactly how behind schedule they were. They just had the fire, the dark, and each other. There's something almost tender about that. The middle of the night used to be social, a quiet, shared hour between one sleep and the next. Now, for most people, it's a private, anxious silence, spent alone with a phone or a spiraling mind, wondering why the body won't just shut off like a light switch. But your body was never built like a light switch. It was built like a fire that needs occasional tending. One that flickers, dims, rises again, and eventually burns low into morning. So the next time you wake at 3 a.m. and the ceiling seems to stretch on forever, consider a different story than the one panic wants to tell you. You are not broken, you have not failed at rest, you have simply arrived, briefly, at an hour your ancestors knew intimately. The watch. They didn't fight it. They sat with it. They let it pass through them like a tide, and then returned, without struggle, to the second half of the night. Maybe the goal was never to eliminate that hour. Maybe the goal was only to stop being afraid of it. It's 3 a.m. You're staring at the ceiling. And for the first time, maybe that's not something wrong with you.